Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, or good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks very much for joining Group IB webinar on mobile fraud trends. So first of all, some organizing notes. The whole webinar is being recorded, so of course, we will email you the recordings and the slides in a couple of days, and you are automatically muted on the entry. And if you have a question, please use the Q&A panel. All questions will be answered after the presentation is over. Without any further, we will speak today about the variety of mobile fraud trends and how actually mobile malware influencing the mobile banking experience all over the world. We'll speak about the rise of the mobile and Android malware with a few examples of mobile banking malware. Then we'll talk about our Group IB Secure Bank mobile SDK solution and like a couple of video demonstrations on what and how the malware works and how our solution is capable of dealing with it. And like I said previously, we'll answer the questions after the presentation. So let's start. Actually, the story and the era of Android malware has begun in 2010. The very first piece of Android malware appeared actually 8 years ago. In the very beginning, the vast majority of Android malware was, let's say, pretty much primitive. And from year to year, it has started to evolve. And like it began with very primitive SMS Trojans, which were sending premium rate messages to different premium rate numbers. And now at the moment we see pretty much sophisticated pieces of Android malware which are capable of doing a lot of things like and basically far more sophisticated pieces that were like 8 years ago. And I mean, the sources of malware are pretty much as well variable. I mean, the very first example of when the malware appeared in the official Google Play market, it has happened, as far as I remember, in March 2011. So it was like 7.5 years ago. And at that moment, the Google Play market was named differently even. And since that, I mean, unfortunately, not a lot of things have changed. We still see that a lot of users continue to use untrusted sources for installing different applications. But even if many people use like only official marketplaces for applications, it's still possible to be infected with different Trojans, even using the official Google Play market, because malware continues to appear there. So with a bit of history, let's go to some damage. And at the moment, from year to year, the financial costs of cyber attacks are actually rising. The expected cost of cybercrime to businesses over the next 5 years, according to Juniper Research, will be around $8 trillion. And the annual cost of responding to cyber attacks will be around 15.6 million per company, and that is actually 27.4% year-on-year increase. And the average cost of cybersecurity incident involving online banking services will be around $1.75 million. So as far as you can see, the cost of cyber attacks is very high, and we continue to monitor the variety of threats, and we see that the number of Android malware and threats related to smartphones continues to grow, and in some cases, in certain countries, the damage is also growing. But in some cases, fortunately, we see that sometimes the damage doesn't grow and actually decreases. But still, cyber criminals continue to pay a lot of attention to smartphones and to Android in particular, and we see that some malware families and cyber criminal groups are like stopping their operations. Some of them continue to develop new Trojans, and in the red table, you can see with the green are marked the malware families which are at the moment very active and continue to infect users and steal their credentials. And the main attack vector hasn't really changed, because SMS phishing continues to be one of the most effective ways to spread malware. So basically, mass spamming with SMS messages with a URL pointing to malware. And the second way, which I also will mention further with some examples, are actually malicious advertisements which lead to fake application markets where the user actually download malware. The most common functionality is basically related to getting admin rights on a victim device, intercepting SMS messages in order to steal the information from there, and also access transaction authentication numbers, and showing web fakes and replacing the legitimate application windows with the malicious ones. So users will enter their credentials in a malicious app, and the data will be sent to cybercriminals' web servers instead of, for example, online banking web server. So, like I mentioned, Google has actually improved some security features, and many old versions of malware do not work on new Android versions, and abroad some cybercriminal groups don't actually use some pieces of malware because of the poor support, and doesn't mean that I mean there are no further developments, and despite the fact that the number of threats actually decreased a little bit, we expect that in the nearest future it will grow again, simply because more and more people actually are actively switching to mobile banking instead of traditional web browser-based online banking, and the number of users actually using different versions and different types of smartphones with Android operating systems is also growing. So that is why the more users we see, the more attacks we'll see on a certain platform. That's basically an axiom for the online world and for the cyber criminals as well. They see the popularity of the platform, they see that there are more users, and many of these users are actually not familiar with cyber threats, so that's why they will continue their attacks. They will continue to develop new malware, and we'll definitely see again an increase in terms of number of the attacks and of damage caused by various types of Android malware. So basically, worldwide there are two main vectors of attack. The first one is related to SMS banking attacks. So cyber criminals send SMS messages with the URL to an Android Trojan. Victim clicks on the link and installs malware, because still many people, they don't actually read what permissions each application is asking. They just simply click yes, allow, and people never read end user license agreements. People never read some notifications from the system, and in many cases they just click yes. Basically, by allowing that, they allowed any piece of Android malware to intercept SMS messages from the bank, for example. After that, Trojan sends USSD requests or SMS to get account information, and this information is being transferred to cybercriminal's web server, where he actually sees the exact amount of money on each account. After that, cybercriminal sends a command to transfer money via SMS banking, and Trojans, of course, will intercept the SMS confirmation code in order to complete the transaction and steal users' money. Another way, which is pretty much similar but doesn't include SMS banking, is related to web fakes and application window replacement. Malware will show like a fake Google Play, fake WhatsApp, fake Viber, or of course online banking window. If the user enters his information like credit card data or login and pass in an application window which seems to be legitimate but actually is malicious, the information will be sent to cybercriminals web server. Cybercriminals will initialize the transaction or money transfer, and bank, of course, will send a confirmation code that will be intercepted by the Trojan to complete the transaction. Some examples of the web fakes, they normally adapt to various devices and banking applications. So you can see like some examples, some screenshots of malware which actually have been in the wild. And this technique today still is one of the most popular among cyber criminals, and it's pretty much effective. You will see why on some demonstrations. So the examples, what pieces of malware have been active recently, active now, or will be active in the nearest future. The example of the Android botnet named Greph, it is capable of intercepting SMS messages, automatically defining the sender and the bank, and of course checking the SMS message for account balance in order to understand how much money each user have. Of course, cyber criminals will look for the clients with big amounts of money on their accounts, and they will send the SMS phishing message with the name of the client, because I mean, they know it, they've learned it. And the thing is that compared to many other pieces of malware, the phishing page will ask only for login only. So it might look not that suspicious for the user, because I mean they think that if they might think that, for example, cybercriminals won't have anything if, or somebody won't learn anything if somebody knows just login. But in fact, by stealing the login information, cybercriminal may ask for password recovery via SMS message, and in this case, malware will intercept the message with a new password, and as a result, cybercriminal has login and password for online banking and ability to intercept SMS messages. So any like further actions are available for a cybercriminal in this case. Another example is agent.bid, like pretty much old development but still active, and it is capable of targeting a variety of banks all over the world, and the functionality is also like mostly related to web fakes and replacing the original windows of online banking applications with the fake ones. I've mentioned that it has been spread via malicious advertisements, and you can see an example, which is actually a fake example of the application of the most popular Russian bank. And another example, this Trojan Tiny.z is capable of distinguishing itself as a popular application. You can see it like there are a lot of examples like Flash Player, WhatsApp, games, social networks, even porn applications, and it is capable of stealing money and targeting a variety of banks all over the world. On the screenshot, you can see that the certain modification and certain build of the Trojan is targeting Commonwealth Bank. Red Alert and AndyBot, those are two malicious families which are targeting users from more than 100 banks globally: Australia, United States, Europe, New Zealand. The Red Alert Trojan is targeting Android 4.4 or higher and is capable of SMS interception, launching different APKs, and of course web injections. And AndyBot or Gustav, targeting not only banks but also online stores and mailing services, capable of credit card data and authentication data theft, and of course web fakes and fake dialog windows with original banking app icons. So all applications, all malicious applications, are trying to distinguish themselves and to mask their activities and to pretend to be legitimate ones, so the users won't become suspicious of any sort of malicious activities on their mobile devices. The Nero Trojan, targeting more than 160 banks and has pretty much a lot of functionality, like SMS interception and sending, showing web fakes, getting contact lists, SMS lists, application lists, making calls and redirecting the calls, sending USSD requests, sending SMS spam, and of course collecting credit card data collection and sending smart push notifications. So a variety of functionality actually helps cyber criminals to steal a lot of information, not only related to online banking, but also a lot of other personal information which is stored on a smartphone. Limebot, which was basically a development of Lipton Trojan, it's another example which also is capable of getting admin rights, intercepting SMS messages, and showing web fakes. And these are the examples of Trojans that are actually being active right now, that are or have been active in very recently. I mean, the presentation and the information about the variety of malicious families can be not endless, but I mean, we can spend like hours of discussing the variety. But the only fact is that cyber criminals are still active. They're targeting Android. They're targeting users of online banking, mobile banking in different countries. I mean, some years ago, the vast majority of Android malware was targeting users mostly from Russian-speaking countries and China. And I mean, the cases of mass infections like in Europe and the United States were not that widespread. But at the moment, we see that the activities of Android malware like spread globally, and we see infections like worldwide, each and every country, and targeting mostly users, like I said, of online banking. So by seeing this threat and by seeing and understanding that today smartphone users might be one of the weakest links in terms of online banking security, we developed a secure bank mobile SDK. And globally, I mean, in some cases, traditional anti-fraud solutions, which are basically monitoring the transactions themselves and like with a certain algorithm trying to understand if the transaction is legitimate or not. In some cases, it's not enough. So because a variety of fraud attacks, they can last from minutes to months. They involve like PC, Android, banking trojans, social engineering, unauthorized remote access, malicious injections. And I mean, the transaction is basically almost like the final step of the fraud, and or like pre-final, but a lot of things are happening before the transaction, and we think that it is like necessary to be able to prevent the fraud before the transaction actually occurs. So that's why we developed the Secure Bank. It's a real-time fraud protection for online payments. It's a client-side fraud and attack prevention across different sessions, platforms, and devices. Basically, no installation on customer devices is required. Behavior analysis starts even like before the user logs in. applications and user behavior analyzed using secure bank server, basically without any sort of additional load on client devices. Secure Bank's web module and mobile SDK, I mean, they use both the same network interaction scheme, which actually reduces the infrastructure maintenance cost for customer, and it can be integrated with most popular anti-fraud systems like RSA, SAS, Intellinx, GBG Predator, and basically the overall system is for any potential customer is just like a simple JavaScript. If we talk about web module or mobile SDK, which is easily integrated with the online banking application. So we use like a stack of advanced anti-fraud technologies, starting from behavior analysis, advanced device fingerprinting, and global user profiling, and finishing with cross-channel analytics, clientless malware detection, and advanced rule engine. With the mobile SDK for Android and iOS, the SDK is basically created for mobile device identification, malicious mobile apps discovery, SIM card changed and rooted or jailbroken devices recognition, because still such devices appear and they represent a bigger threat for any online banking system. Detection of app launch via an emulator, and mobile API protection against bots. So of course, all like resource-intensive operations are performed in a separate thread of the service, and they don't affect the functionality of the mobile application. The integration doesn't require like any changes to the existing online banking application or its logic. Basically, you just need to like link the SDK library to the mobile app, initialize it, set the user and session ID during his successful login, and call the access token generation function when using the API protection of the service side of the mobile app. The rule engine, which is created for different sort of events, is fully customizable, and you're able to create a variety of rules. We have like pretty much a big set of rules, but you create your own for certain events with a certain priority if it is required by your policies. And both using like web module and mobile SDK, it is possible to detect and prevent cross-channel or cross-banking fraud. So without any like further delays, let's demonstrate what's happening. Here are two examples of mobile Trojans, like how they operate and how Secure Bank is capable of detecting it. So this is the video of how actually the Trojan replaced the window. You can see there was like a switch. I will just go quickly and repeat it again. So the legitimate app has been launched, and now it is switched to the malicious one. So now you see the screen of the malicious applications. The user enters his login and his password into the malicious app, and the malicious app asks for the credit card number, and you can see that the original banking app is in the background, and the all data is being entered into the malicious application, actually, not to the legitimate one. So the second example right here, again, the app is launched. The credentials are entered. And you can see that the credentials have been entered in the fake, actually, well, so-called malicious application, but the original one is running again in the background. And you can see that here we have a detection that there was suspicious overlapping by another application, and of course the high priority, because in most cases such actions are performed mostly by malware. So we're capable also of detecting usage of emulator, or of course if somebody is using a rooted device. So there are notifications on the screenshot that certain devices are rooted and trying to access the online banking web application. Detecting a SIM change, which is also like really important, simply because in most cases the SIM change might be performed by someone who has a physical access to a device and not supposed to have it actually. And so that's some examples of the functionality of mobile SDK, of Group IB Secure Bank mobile SDK, and we'll be happy to provide any additional information about Secure Bank overall and Secure Bank mobile SDK solutions. So I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. So there is a question window. So if you have any, I'll be happy to answer them. So please type them. And thanks very much for your attention and attending our webinar. So it's question time. The question about the quotes and prices depends on a number of factors, and I'll be very happy, me and my colleagues will be very happy to answer it. Just if you can, please email me. So my email is on the screen, or we'll contact you after the presentation and like continue our conversation related to the quotes and prices. Question about mobile malware on iOS. Well, if we compare the number of iOS malware to Android malware, it will be basically like a very unfair competition. The number of iOS malware is very low, and in order to any iOS device to be infected, there must a lot of different factors must come into one place at the same time. But yes, still, no matter what, there are some iOS malware pieces, but the overall environment of the iOS actually prevent massive malware appearance and massive malware infections compared to Android. Well, actually, the question about malware which is capable of compromising smart push notifications, actually, and the question is, what's the best solution to replace SMS two-factor authentication, in my opinion? Well, actually, Secure Bank Mobile SDK and Secure Bank overall, we like basically the idea of Secure Bank overall is to create the big database of trusted devices, trusted users, and trusted user profiles. So, for example, which helps us and the system to understand if a legitimate user is actually accessing the online banking system, and we see that the user is like 99.99999% legitimate. In this case, the two-factor authentication is not even necessary. So our solutions actually also helps banks to save money in order to like replace SMS two-factor authentication. So basically, we create a profile and a database of legitimate users, legitimate devices, and we know actually the system knows when a legitimate user is actually accessing the system. So no additional authentication is required. Thank you for your kind words, and thank you very much for attending the webinar, Marius. So I think that we see that people are actually leaving, and if there are no more questions, again, thanks very much for attending the webinar. If you remember, or if you forgot to ask any questions, please contact us. We'll be happy to answer them. And like I said, the whole presentation and the recording will be available very soon, and we will email it to you. Thanks very much, and have a nice day.